Hey, moneymakers, welcome back to another episode of Taking Stock Live. We're bringing you all the latest business news and telling you how it will affect you and your money. Now, the TransJamaican Highway offer for sale officially opened today, but I'm sure there are a lot of you who still have some questions about this offer and whether this investment might be right for you. We'll be talking all about it tonight on Taking Stock. But before we get into all those details, let me know in the comments in the chat what part of Jamaica or what part of the world you are joining us from. I love to see people from all over the place tuning in every single week to this program. Now, up next, we have What's Hot in Business, followed by, that's when the show starts. Here's a look at what's coming up tonight, followed by What's Hot in Business. Now, come on, let's get this money. On this episode of Taking Stock, the government is selling its final 20% stake in TransJamaican Highway. Over 2 billion shares are up for sale. But is this a good investment for you? CEO of NCB Capital Markets Angus Young joins us. And the analysts weigh in on the latest market developments. The Playa Hotel Group made over $73 million in 2024. What does that mean for its hotels in Jamaica? We'll discuss.
But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
Global ratings agency Fitch has maintained Jamaica's credit rating at BB- with a positive outlook. The positive outlook comes despite the island recording 2 consecutive quarters of decline, mainly due to the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Fitch says the outlook reflects the agency's expectation of continued debt improvement and strengthening of the policy framework. Jamaica's debt to GDP is expected to fall to 70% this financial year, coming from a high of 152% in 2012. NCB is looking to raise up to $7 billion through its latest bond offer. The company launched 2 new tranches of unsecured corporate bonds. The first tranche has a dividend payout interest rate of 10% and matures in 2.5 years. Tranche 2 matures in 5 years and has a 10.5% interest rate. The offer is currently open and is scheduled to close on March 20. The minimum subscription is 100,000 Jamaican dollars. Dolphin Cove says its local operations continue unaffected despite its parent company filing for bankruptcy. Dolphin Cove is owned by World of Dolphins Barbados, which is in turn owned by Dolphin Discovery in Mexico. Dolphin Discovery filed for bankruptcy in February, citing over $200 million in liabilities. According to an update on the Jamaica Stock Exchange website, Dolphin Cove said the bankruptcy will not affect its local operations and that the company will maintain its independent operational status. Dolphin Cove founder Stafford Burrows told The Gleaner that if it comes to the point where the Mexican owners put their shares in the company up for sale, he's in a position to buy them. Microsoft says it will be shutting down Skype in May. Microsoft acquired the video and call pioneer in 2011. Founded in 2003, Skype revolutionized internet communication by offering free voice calls between computers and affordable rates for calls to landlines and mobile phones. In recent times, Skype has failed to hold on to its place against new rivals such as WhatsApp, Zoom, and Microsoft's own Teams. Microsoft said they're focusing on innovating Teams.
What's Hot was brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
If you want 5 million Jamaican dollars, what would you do with it?
Put it in a fixed deposit.
Fixed deposit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah. Wheel of fortune. Wheel up more money. Get more money accomplishment from Grace Kennedy. Yeah.
So
How is everything?
Grace Kennedy, you like the stocks?
Yeah. Stock up on bully beef and bread. You get you more comfortable.
Welcome back. Let's see who we have joining us this evening. Who's checking in so far? Ryan says, wow, I'm so early. Big up yourself, Ryan, for being the first commenter this evening. We've got Ryan, and Ryan, by the way, says he's investing in TransJam Highway Limited. Nah, missed me like Carib Cement in 1993. Whoa, going way back, Ryan. We have Dwight joining us from Spanish Town as usual. We also have Hailey Dennis from Portmore checking in. We got Humble Boss checking in from Negril. Art Words checking in, saying greetings, money makers. We have Chris checking in from Panama City. We have Travel Chef in Wyoming. Malik is in Massachusetts. Orlando is in Grange Hill. Bianca in Mandeville. Delroy, BMJM. I think that's a flag, but for some reason on YouTube it shows up as numbers. I'm not sure what flag he was showing. Christopher checking in from Kingston. Royston is in Red Hills. We got Orville in Houston, Texas. Shavane is in the 15th Parish, sending us blessings. Cheesy Gullyside is in Mobay. We got Art Words in Linstead Market. We got Ashton in Portmore City. Timmy Tim is in Kingston. Earl is in Helsha. Patricia is a Jamaican living in Bermuda, and she says, Shidea. Look up yourself, Patricia. So this evening, we're going to be talking all about the new TransJamaican Highway offer for sale. As you may have heard by now, the government is divesting its final 20% stake in the highway to you, the members of the public. And so now we are going to hear all about this offer from CEO of NCB Capital Markets, Angus Young, as well as CEO of TransJamaican Highway, Ivan Anderson. Welcome, gentlemen, to the show.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Great to have you as well. Now, Ivan, you've been on this show before. Angus, I believe this is your first time. I know we interviewed you for the APO, but you weren't on Taking Stock specifically. So welcome to Taking Stock.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm going to start with you. For those of our viewers who are not familiar with you, give us some background about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Angus Young, and I'm the CEO of NCB Capital Markets. For those of you who don't know, NCB Capital Markets is the investment banking and asset and wealth management division of the NCB Financial Group. And NCB Capital Markets is the lead broker on the TransJamaica Highway offer for sale being done by NROC.
And Ivan, a little bit about yourself as well. How long have you been with TransJamaican Highway?
Good evening again, Kalila. Good evening to your listeners. So, as you said, I'm Ivan Anderson. I'm the managing director of TransJamaica. I've been the MD for the past 4 years. Before that, I was the managing director of NROC for the past 15 years. So I have a little knowledge of the toll roads.
Right. I remember you as managing director of NROC. I didn't realize that you had transitioned full-time to just managing TJH.
Yes. So that's the journey we have been on to transform TJH over the past few years.
What has it been like these past 5 years now? Because it was February 2020, right smack dab at the beginning of COVID, that the IPO was done. What have these past 5 years been like for you managing the nation's highways?
Well, we've been able to transform TJH, Khalil, as you know. We've talked about this before. Before we did the IPO, our TJH profits were about $8 million. As you talked about when we spoke last, TJH profits are now in excess of $30 million. So we have increased our profits by about 375% over the past 4 years. Not only are our profits up, but our cost of operations are down. So interestingly, our cost today to operate TJH is actually 20% less than it was when we bought TransJamaica in 2020.
That is interesting. How were you able to achieve that?
So we've done a number of things. We restructured our operations. As you know, we've purchased one of our subsidiaries, the subsidiary who used to deal with the day-to-day collection of tolls, which was owned by the French at the time. We purchased that company, restructured that company's operations, which resulted in lower cost. We've modernized everything about the way we operate. We're a totally different organization today, as most people who use the highway know.
And I noticed that you're also expanding. I don't remember. I passed on the highway today,
Yes.
and I drive it every week, and I noticed that which one of the toll booths is you're adding an extra lane?
Right. So in December, we had our highest ever traffic. We had 100,000 vehicles on the road on December 20th. And a number of our toll booths just can't handle that volume of traffic. So as you would have seen at Vineyards, we're adding a
Vineyards,
new,
yes.
yes, a new lane. We're also adding another reversible lane in Vineyards as well. We are also adding new ramps at Freetown. We've added another new reversible lane at Spanish Town to help us deal with the traffic. We've done a number of new improvements.
You've also made it easier for people to top up their accounts. You've added the WhatsApp top up as
Exactly.
well.
Right. So you can top up via the web. You can top up via our app. As we have talked about before, you can automatically top up. The app will determine when you reach a particular threshold. It will top up by itself. We've added some 1,200 locations throughout the country where you can use Go Top Up, those point of sales machines to top up. You mentioned we are also doing beta testing with WhatsApp top ups. As you know, Kalila, we're also accepting credit cards at all our toll plazas. So we've made it very easy to collect tolls, and to top up your account. And we're also we have new features coming on board this year, which we call unattended toll payments and toll top-ups. But we can talk more about that later.
Yeah, I love the app. I never have to worry about not having cash for the toll. I wish the
Right.
other highway would take a leaf out of TJH's book. Now, Angus, let me bring you in here.
Sure.
This is a kind of a different offer than we're used to. We know about IPOs, we know about APOs. This is an offer for sale. Explain the structure of this deal and how it's different from an IPO.
Absolutely. So great question. So an offer for sale is different from an IPO in that an offer for sale is when you take an already existing security that's already in issuance, and you take a block of it and you set a price for it and you offer it to the public through this process called offer for sale, which is quite unique and exists in the region only in Jamaica. So kudos to the Jamaica Stock Exchange for facilitating these types of structures. So it's very important to note that this is not new money being raised. There's no dilution taking place. This is simply the government of Jamaica through NROC divesting its residual 20% in TransJamaican Highway, which is already a publicly listed share. So this offer for sale, this 20% is being offered to the public at a price of $3.60 J or 0.0228 US dollars for a specific period of time. So it opened today, Kalila, and the offer closes on the 18th of March. So that's a big difference between an offer for sale and an IPO or an APO. It's not new money being raised, and there's no dilution taking place. It's just offering a block of something that's already in issuance at a specific price over a specific period of time to the public.
You mentioned the offer price being $3.60 per share. How was that price arrived at, given the IPO price was $1.40, the 52-week
Sure.
high was like almost $5. I think it was $4.98. Yes, $4.98. And then last week we were at $3.90. Today we closed at $3.75.
Right.
Why $3.60?
Okay, so typically, typically when you look at APOs traditionally on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, for example, it's almost that the market expects a discount in order to move something that's already, they already have access to, so to speak. But let me be a little more scientific than that. On, I think it was January the 22nd, at the Jamaica Stock Exchange Investments and Capital Markets Conference in Kingston, the Prime Minister would have made the announcement that the government was doing this divestment of these shares in TransJamaica. And on that day, I believe TransJamaica would have closed at about $3.97. And if you look at the price of $3.60 today, that's roughly about a 10% discount. So the government has decided to offer this 10% discount to the public to encourage every Jamaican to take advantage of this access to a wealth management, a wealth creation opportunity. So to encourage the people of Jamaica to make it available to every Jamaican, the government would have priced a 10% discount to the price that it traded at on the day that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance would have made that announcement on the 22nd of January. So in effect, what I'm saying is if the market had priced, if the market was pricing TransJamaica in the $4 $4.50 range, and it's only due to this announcement that it has traded down to where it is now, which I think you mentioned 370. If
375.
375. So it's just a function of the announcement and the price being 360. There's a pickup from time zero, Kalila. That's how I see it, because the market would have priced it in the fours already. So it's a discount that I think everyone should take advantage of.
We have quite a few questions in the chat. Let me start taking some of them. Ivan, this one is for you, comes from D, who says, speaking of percentage growth in revenue, once TJH starts collecting for the new leg, by what percentage are you expecting revenue to grow?
Well, we expect that we will be able to attract maybe an additional 11,000 vehicles on the new leg of the highway. We don't yet have an agreement in place with the GOJ, so we can't speak to what the toll rates will be. We have discussed this issue before, Kalila, in terms of the toll rates, but right now we're anticipating about 11,000 more vehicles. Currently, we have about 70,000 vehicles on average on the highway every day. So we'll add maybe 15% more traffic on the network.
What's the delay in coming up with that, settling on an agreement with the government? Because it's been, what, a year and a half now since it's been finished?
Right. Your guess is as good as mine. I think we're close to finalizing the documentation. It's just been about finalizing the concession agreement, signing off on the tolls, and going through that process. But as we understand from NROC, that process should be completed shortly.
Because as a user, I'm not complaining, but as a shareholder, I am. As a shareholder, I want to see the revenue come in. So Learn, Grow, Invest wants to know, when is the gas station expected to be completed?
So the gas station, in partnership with Rubis, we're building a new gas station along the Portmore Causeway, and that should be finished in the second quarter of this year. They are well advanced, and as I said, it should be finished in the second quarter.
Question for Angus. This one comes from Lavaine. In regards to shares allotment, is it a first come, first serve basis, or will it be similar to the IPO offer where everyone gets something?
Okay, so there is definitely on a first come, first serve basis, but there is a special reserve for strategic investors, and NROC will decide how that is allocated. But it is definitely on a first come, first serve basis, Kalila. And given the demand that we see to date, I would encourage any interested investor to move as quickly as possible to ensure that they get their full subscription.
Question from Learn, Grow, Invest. Will those who participate in the offer for sale get the first dividends to be announced for the year?
So I think that would be a function of when the process is completed and the allocation takes place, and when the post-div date is set. I think those are very important dates to take note of. What I would say to those investors who are interested in dividends, the TransJamaican Highway has a dividend yield just over 5%. And when you look at the Jamaica Stock Exchange, the median dividend yield is probably 2.5%. So this is one of the highest paying dividend stocks, very stable revenue model. So definitely one of those cash flow type equity investments. So from what's also interesting, Kalila, is that the TransJamaica has not started earning from 1C as yet. So that's not built into the revenues to date. In addition to which, the debt that TransJamaica has is amortizing. And as that debt amortizes, essentially you're going to have additional free cash flow as principal is paid down. So you one C that's not earning as yet, but it's on its way. And then you have debt that's amortizing, which in effect allows for additional free cash flow. So there's only an upward trajectory that I see.
Great points. 1C would be the Maypen to Mandeville leg.
Maple to
The Williams Field, yes.
The Williams Field, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great points. Ivan, as we talk about the increase in traffic on the highways, you mentioned that December was the highest volume ever recorded on TransJamaican Highway. To what would you attribute that? Like, why are more people using the highways, in your opinion? Is it that more people have cars, or people just have more money, or what's going on?
It varies by toll plaza, Kalila. So if you look, for example, at the Spanish Town area, I don't know if you ever, when last you've driven along the Spanish Town bypass, but a lot of development is taking place along the Spanish Town bypass. And that is driving, well, obviously you have increasing congestion taking place on the Spanish Town bypass. So when you look at our traffic numbers on the Spanish Town from Spanish Town, that is growing by high double digits. And that is also influencing Vineyards Toll Plaza as well. For people who are coming along the Old Harbour Road, coming into Spanish Town, no longer want to come along that route. So what we're seeing is increasing development along the free roads, increasing congestion along the free roads, resulting in increasing traffic on the highway.
So Spanish Town is a hot area.
Is a big issue for us, yes. Obviously, as the economy grows as well. So a lot of our traffic is correlated, overall traffic is correlated with the growth in the economy. So the faster the economy grows, the faster our traffic grows as well.
All right, let's take some more questions from the audience. There are a lot of them. The Diplomat wants to know, when is the projected completion date for the Williams Field to Hodges leg? And also, when is the next AGM?
So we are not involved, obviously, in the Williams Field to Hodges leg. That would be the government of Jamaica at this point. Our AGMs are typically in June of every year, and we expect it to be in around about the same time.
Next one is for Angus. This comes from Ryan. Musson has been selling hundreds of millions of units above $4 leading up to the announcement of the offer. Should the public be worried that a top 10 shareholder was selling so heavily to the public?
No, I don't think so at all, Kalila. I would say this to you, and I know you'll like this one, Kalila. Warren Buffett, price is what you pay, value is what you get. So if you look at, for example, the JN Group would have released their valuation on the TransJamaica share this week. NCB Capital Markets would have released our valuation, and they come in at $4.56 from JN and $4.43 from NCB Cap Markets. That's what you call the intrinsic valuation of the TransJamaica share that was done by independent subject matter experts. What is being offered to the public is $3.60. So you're able to buy something that's intrinsically valued in the mid fours for the mid threes. So that value that's built into there is accessible to everyone. For groups like Mussons, etc., who may have been selling down, you have to ask yourself at what price did they get in, and what they may have different needs for their funds. They have made done quite well on the share. Perhaps they have use for the capital. So no, to answer your question, I am confident that there's nothing to worry about. You have a dividend yield that is at the top of the class. You have revenues that are on the horizon, not yet being earned. And you have an infrastructure asset that's very important to Jamaica, very stable in its nature. I see this as a strong fundamentals. And for those investors who really want to own a part of Jamaica, to use the infrastructure that they use in their daily lives, this is a very unique opportunity. fundamentally sound metrics on this investment opportunity. So no, Kalila, I would not be worried.
As you mentioned, an infrastructure asset that's very important to Jamaica, Earl has a question. When the investment by NROC is recovered, who will the highway turn over to? The shareholders or the government?
Well, I mean, Ivan would be able to get into more detail, but from what I understand, the TransJamaica has a concession that expires in maybe 2036. Ivan could correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah,
but then
that's
the option to and then the option to renew for another 35 years. So this is something that this is very long term. This is very stable ownership. I view TransJamaica Highway as being the owner operator of this highway into the foreseeable future, and I stand to be corrected by Ivan.
Ivan?
No, I think that's correct. So as Angus said, we have a 35-year concession. So for the benefit of your viewers, that allowed us to design, build, finance, and operate the highway. That concession ends in 2036, as Angus indicated. But in 2036, we have what is called an option to extend the concession for another 35 years.
Okay. Next question comes from Rob, who wants to know, he has a long-term question. Will TJH stretch all the way to Negril in Westmoreland eventually?
So there are obviously a number of new opportunities. One of your callers talked about the Williamsfield to Hodges. And obviously there is also the Montego Bay bypass, which is now under construction. There is also the North Coast Highway, which the government is developing. We see ourselves playing a part in those. Obviously, those are not guaranteed for us, but we would obviously take the opportunity to bid on those, to be able to operate those as part of the network.
Limitless Podcast wants to know, any plans to expand outside of Jamaica?
But there are a number of opportunities, especially obviously in Guyana. We've begun to look at those opportunities. We think we have a lot of value that we can bring to that operation. And so we continue to look at those.
Yes, because their government is investing a lot in infrastructure, given the economic developments there in the past 5 years.
Exactly.
However, when you look at the issue of what their population earns, can that sustain a toll?
So maybe I could help. There, Ivan. We being very familiar with Guyana. Kalila, make no mistake. The government of Guyana, the equivalent of what you call a sovereign wealth fund, is now in excess of $3 billion. $2.4 billion was deposited in that fund in only 2024. They have enough money in that fund to pay off the entire sovereign debt of Guyana and still have excess funding. So where their ability is concerned in terms of capital expenditure, make no mistake, improving logistics from across Guyana, touching Brazil. There are many different infrastructure type, logistic type assets that they can develop that will unlock value, not only for trade, but of course in real estate, etc. So where tolls are concerned, my view is that it's wide open, because when you create easier access than what is there today, think about Brazil and think about what could be channeled through Guyana to the north coast of South America. Think east and west. There are boundless opportunities, Kalila, where logistics is concerned. Remember, Guyana is huge. The entire UK can fit into Guyana. So that infrastructure possibilities there are incredible.
Very interesting opportunity indeed. Let me take this next question from Limitless again. Any plans for a share buyback, given more shares will be in circulation? You're just selling them now. You buy them back so quick. But yeah, Ivan or Angus?
I mean,
Yeah, so I would not be able to comment. Yeah,
You would not what?
I wouldn't be able to comment because I wouldn't know.
Ivan?
so I think we discussed this issue, I think, the last time, Kalila. So earlier in 2022, when the shares were trading just above where we had offered them, we had thought about buying back some shares at the time. We had actually modified our articles to allow us to buy them back on the market. But given where they are now, we're not seeing that right now. We're not seeing the need to buy back any shares at this point in time.
Okay. So there have been, and let me take the question from Sean, because I have been seeing these complaints. Sean says, I'm seeing a lot of videos on social media of people complaining of traffic wait time at the tolls. What's being done about this?
So we talked a little bit about some of the things that we're doing. So at Portmore, we've added new reversible lanes at Portmore. So we have more tag lanes available at Portmore. At Spanish Town, we've added a new lane, both tag and manual, in January. We talked before about adding new lanes at Vineyards, and that's under construction. We have a partnership with MasterCard that we're doing this year, which we call Tap and Go. So currently, when you drive up to the toll plaza and you want to pay by credit card, you pretty much do what you do at any other location. You give the credit card to the toll collector, or you tap on the machine. Well, the toll collector puts in the information in the point of sale machine, puts in the amount of the toll. You either tap or swipe your card. It goes away, comes back, gets an authorization. You print out the receipt, you give the receipt back to the customer. But we are working on this year, along with MasterCard and NCB, what we call Tap and Go. So when you come to the toll plaza, what we anticipate is that the toll plaza will communicate with the point of sale machine. So the amount of the toll will come up on the point of sale machine. You just tap on the point of sale machine goes away, gets the authorization, comes back, and automatically opens the barrier without anybody in between. No attending, unattended, totally unattended. So that's where we see ourselves going in terms of credit card payments. And hopefully that will also smooth the way through the toll plaza.
And which would also reduce your cost.
And which should also reduce our cost, yes.
Moncherie is seeking some clarification. Angus, this is for you. Is the number of U.S. shares available the same as the Jamaican dollar shares? Explain the USD shares and why the price of the USD shares appears to have been relatively flat.
Okay, no problem. So the truth is the J dollar share and the US dollar share have the same ISIN, which is a unique identifier number. So essentially, it represents the same ownership. Just one is denominated in J dollars, one in US dollars, and on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, one is traded on the J dollar main listing and one is trading on the US dollar listing. So you would find that there would be different liquidity between the two shares. The one that's quoted in Jamaican dollars, there would be more volumes traded, but theoretically, the US price should adjust and not really leave too much of an arbitrage between US and the J dollar price. I guess it depends on the investor and what currency they have. I see things a little differently in the sense that if you have US dollars invested, for example, let's just say you invest in US Treasuries. US Treasuries today would yield you, let's say, 4%. You have an opportunity to take those US dollars and invest in the TransJamaica US dollar share that's listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, where the dividend yield is in excess of 5%. And the only trajectory you have, in my opinion, is the upside potential outweighs the downside potential. So you ask yourself, would I stay in a US Treasury earning 4%, or would I invest in a share that I stay in US dollars, immediate dividend yield of 5% with tons of upside because it was trading higher than that just in January, and you know that the revenues from 1C are not yet there, and you know that the debt amortizes, so it creates more free cash flow going forward. And it's an infrastructure asset, so it's not a very volatile asset, very stable revenues. And again, Ivan could correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe TransJamaica's traffic volumes today are greater than what was projected back prior to COVID when they did the IPO. But again, Ivan could probably correct me if I'm wrong. But certainly from that perspective, I find the US dollar option very attractive, simply given the yield and the potential for upside for something that's very stable and proven. Proof of concept has been proven.
All right, just to confirm, Angus is correct. When we did the IPO projections in 2020 for the subsequent years and for 2024, for example, our traffic volumes, despite the impact of COVID, today are higher than those which are projected in our IPO. So our revenues are actually higher today than we actually projected in the IPO. But I just want to clarify a response I gave regarding the purchase of shares. So what I was alluding to is where the share prices are significantly below what we think the market price is, then we would look at repurchase of shares. Where the share prices are close to the market, or we think are the market prices, then it's unlikely that we would purchase shares.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I'll take this final question from Ashley. She wants to know, is resilience to climate change a consideration in current operations and future plans? We know how rain, storm, hurricane, mash up road, earthquake, mash up road. So what is the thinking and the plan there?
Excellent question. So one of the things that we have done over the past few years is to review our design standards. So looking at how does a 100-year storm, for example, impact the highway? And we have looked at the areas that we think there are weaknesses, and we have a plan to improve those locations. Suffice it to say, as anybody who have driven on the highway would recognize, we are also very proactive in terms of our maintenance. So we continually improve our roadway. Every year we do routine overlays in order to improve the life of the pavement. We pride ourselves in having 0 potholes on our network.
And that's a fact. All right, so I'll give you both one final comment. What is your last message to potential shareholders watching this right now? What would you like to say to them? Let me start with Angus.
Sure. So I'll try not to get too technical and just break it down as this. On January 22nd, the share would have closed at $3.97. The Prime Minister would have made an announcement of the divestment. That was followed by the Minister of Finance speaking at the same conference, would have announced the divestment. You're seeing today a discount. You're seeing today a price being offered to you at a 10% discount to that price when the Prime Minister made the announcement. So let's assume that the market had always priced this at $4. That's an immediate 10%, assuming that the market would get back to the position before the announcement was made. You have a dividend yield of 5+%. So the way I see it, Kalila, is that you have an opportunity to almost earn 15% off the bat on the assumption that the market would return where it was pricing TransJamaica prior to the Prime Minister's announcement. Now, you also have independent subject matter experts publicizing that they value the share in the mid-4s. I'm not even pricing that in. You have an infrastructure asset that is very critical to Jamaica's logistics. You have a Jamaican economy that is moving in the right direction in the sense that its metrics with debt to GDP, etc., are improving. You have Jamaica as a country being rated BB with positive outlooks. So if you put all of that into one opportunity, that opportunity is the TransJamaica offer for sale at $3.60, Kalila. That's how I see it.
Ivan, last word goes to you.
Thanks, Khalil. Well, I won't talk about whether you should buy the stock or not, but I'll just say a few words about where we're going. So obviously, over the past few years, we've transformed our operations. We've added new technology. Now, um, a few years ago, the systems couldn't recognize vehicles coming through the tag lanes. We've implemented new technology which allows us to be able to identify vehicles coming into the tag lane, the size, the length, the width of those vehicles. That have allowed us now to be able to sell tags anywhere. So you can pick up a tag at the toll booth. No longer you need to come out of your vehicle to go into the office to buy a tag. We've transformed how we operate in terms of tag usage. So more than 1 million people per month use our tags. Our tag rates, usage rates have gone up to about 50%. So more than half of the people who use our highway now use a tag. We continue to add new sections. We didn't talk about some of our new projects that we're currently waiting on approval. We have a new access point at Heartlands that we have discussed with both NAA and NROC. So we're waiting for final approval for that before we can start that. So we think the future is very bright. We think that we will continue to grow, and we think that our shareholders will continue to do well.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Ivan Anderson of NROC, of TransJamaican Highway, and Angus Young from NCB Capital Markets. And of course, to our viewers, you can participate in this offer by going to NCB's Go IPO platform. That's right. goipo.jncb.com.
That's right. Yes. And Kalila, anyone can invest in this. Once you have 3,500 Jamaican dollars, you can participate in this offer for sale. And we have invited every single broker in Jamaica to make this available to their clients. We want everyone in Jamaica to have an opportunity to partake in this investment.
Good stuff. Thanks again, Ivan. Thanks, Angus. So it is time for our poll question. Let's see what our question is. Do you plan to invest in TransJamaica's Highway's new offer? Do you plan to invest in TransJamaican Highway's new offer after hearing everything that the gentleman had to say? A, yes, I'm buying more shares. B, no, I don't want it. C, yes, because I missed the first offer. Or D, other, leave a comment. Do you plan to invest in TransJamaican Highway's new offer? Yes, I'm buying more shares. No, I don't want it. Yes, because I missed the first offer, so second time now, miss me. Or other, leave a comment. Let us know if you plan to invest in TransJamaican Highway's new offer. Leave your comments in the chat. You can also take our poll over on the community section of YouTube or on X, and it will be in our email tomorrow morning as well. So up next, we've got your market recap, and the analysts are standing by. Time now for your February market recap. The combined index lost 3,800 points, or 1% in February. 131 stocks traded across the main and junior markets for the month. 39 made gains, 88 lost value, and 4 stayed the same. 701 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, valued at $2.7 billion. Now let's see who had February's biggest gains. Cygnus Real Estate Finance USD was up 32% to open March at 8 cents US. 138 Student Living Variable Preference climbed 24% to start the month at $302.63. And JMMB 5.75% FRUSD CR Preference Shares was February's third biggest gainer. The stock was up 20% to start the month at $2.05 US. On the losing side now, First Rock Real Estate Investments USD was last month's biggest loser. It's down 43% to open the new month at 2 cents US. Dolphin Cove lost $6.75 to open the new month at $12.79. And MPC Caribbean Clean Energy USD fell 27% to open March at 44 cents US. Over on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, the composite index was mostly flat in February. Massey was the most traded stock of the month. It lost 6 cents to open March at $3.89 TT. Prestige was the TTSE's biggest gainer, up almost 12%. It opened the new month at $11.29 TT. On the losing side, Unilever Caribbean was the month's biggest loser, down 3%. Over in the U.S., the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 both lost about 1% in February, while the Nasdaq fell 3%. At the pumps last month, gas prices fell $1.27. Meanwhile, the cost of regular diesel dropped $1.46, and low sulfur diesel was down 48 cents. In foreign exchange, the Jamaican dollar gained 93 cents against the US dollar in January, closing the month at an average $157.33 to 1 US. The JMD was flat against the Canadian dollar, closing the month at $110.46. The JMD also weakened against the pound and euro. It lost $2.97 on the pound and $2.70 on the euro. Finally, on the crypto markets, Bitcoin prices rose 0.5% over the last 30 days, trading at $93,428 on Monday. However, Ethereum fell 3%, trading at $2,375 on Monday. Not long ago, I asked how many of you would be willing to pay to watch Taking Stock. And a lot of you responded that you would pay, but some of you begged me to keep it free. And I get it. Everyone goes through financial challenges, and I want as many people to access this information as possible. So I've decided to give you the option to make a donation and help to keep Taking Stock free. Support us at patreon.com/moneymediaja.
Disclaimer. This is not intended as financial advice. Please consult a licensed financial advisor before making investment decisions.
Welcome back. It's time now for the analysts. Before I introduce our one-man panel tonight, let me take some comments. Diplomat says, wait, a big show tonight. It's a big show every week. Diplomat, how you mean? We have the prosperous one says, I just love being patriotic to my country, Jamaica. Good for you. Venice says, great information. And then we have a bunch of comments on the poll question, which is, will you invest in TransJamaica's new share offer, or new offer for sale? Ricardo says, I bought already before the opening. Lorene says yes. Rasheen says D, which is other. Leave a comment. So what's your comment, Rasheen? Tavares says B, which is no, I will not be investing. What was B? Yes, no, I don't want it. JN says yes. Kish says, oh yes, A. Kirk says A, of course. A was yes, I'm buying more shares. Malik says A. Orville says he applied for some crumbs today. David says A, yes. Venice says A. Sean says A. The prosperous one says yes. Christine says yes, buying more shares. Shell says B, I don't want it. The Weekender says no, not interested. So it seems a majority of you, at least the ones who are commenting, are saying yes. I don't see anybody saying C who missed the first offer. So everybody who's commenting so far is saying they want it, they want more of what they already have, and then a few people saying no. All right, let's introduce our analyst for this evening. His name is David Rose, our Taking Stock analyst. Welcome back, David.
Night, Kalila.
Mr. Reliable. We have a couple of things to talk about this week. One being Playa Hotel Group's latest results, and we also need an update on Dolphin Cove. But let's start with Dolphin Cove first, since I feel like that's been in the news a lot more and is of concern to shareholders, immediate concern. What's our update on Dolphin Cove?
So we saw the company put out a release last week, Tuesday. Over a week later, after, the market had already sacrificed the stock price, and they mentioned a couple of things. So I'm just going to bring up Dolphin Cove quickly. Apologies. Do have my laptop as usual, and it's been a rough week. But Dolphin Cove last week, they pointed out, yes, I found it. So, Controladora, apologies for my accent. Controladora Dolphin SA, that the CV, that's Dolphin Discovery, they initiated a concurrence to mercantile, which is what they call a restructuring process for their debts and liabilities. And, they kind of just reinforced or restated some of the things that I would have pointed out in my prior story. And, they mentioned that, Dolphin Cove's operations are unaffected. They mentioned that, the Dolphin Discovery has 365 days to try and resolve that whole process. If no agreement is reached, it can potentially go to liquidation. And then on Friday, there was a Greener story where they spoke to the founder and former board member, Stafford Burrows, and that gave the market some level of comfort. Because
Yeah, the man said if they're willing to sell, he has the money to buy it. So that was
and I
very
can't wrong him there.
Huh?
I cannot wrong him, to be honest, in that respect, because he still knows the business. He can find financing very quickly alongside his own wealth. So it would be a great bet, You sell it, make a profit, invest the money elsewhere, make a profit. You get to buy the same asset at a cheaper price, potentially cheaper price, and you move on. And Dolphin Cove stock price has reacted pretty aggressively as well. So on Friday, as persons were processing the news, so sometimes the markets will process news same day it comes out in the papers, might process it a couple of days later, but Dolphin Cove went until 11.90, and then it had to trade back up to like $13, and today it traded at $15, and it's close to that $14.80. So it was almost up 10% today in terms of the closing price change. But it's still down year to date by about 20%. So today you're at 1850, ended December at December at 1850, ended January 1950, and it just started in the month around $12.80.
All right, so we're seeing the curve here on My Money JE. This was around the time the bankruptcy was announced, and we see this steep decline. But now we see the curve ticking back up, and that would be, I guess, since the Gleaner article came out, it's going back up. Ended today at 14.80.
And that's just it, Kalila. And that's just truth of it. You need information to make decisions, and Dolphin Cove silence alongside the very weak response that came out last week, Tuesday, did not make anyone feel reassured as to what was going on. And one thing, Stafford said, which kind of confirmed my suspicions when he talked about the Miami Seaquarium deal that, their company took on, and how that has not gone pretty sour. Because for Miami-Dade County to have a 324-page complaint in their courts for rent to get you out, it tells you that you really did not, do your part as was expected under an agreement.
Right. So I'm happy to see, the market reacting positively. I'm even happier to hear, the founder saying he is in a position to get it back, because we wouldn't mind seeing it back in Jamaican hands.
Agreed. And to be honest, it's going to be an interesting year, because it's going to be a game of who can check Twitter, who can try and navigate Mexico's laws, language to just find the most information. Because as that process progresses, you might get opportunities to actually hear more information about the state of the company and its debts. Because we saw the article speak about, a total amount of liabilities for the overall parent company. We don't know that this is actually for the parent company as a standalone entity or across the group. But it will be interesting to see Dolphin Cove change hands again and go back in Jamaican hands, can be profitable for Jamaicans even more. Because, some institutional investors, they're looking at Dolphin Cove's properties that they've announced for sale in recent times. So persons who are looking to, after this news of the bankruptcy appearing, to, in a sense, carve up assets or see what values in Dolphin Cove to extract.
Question from Branjamin. So if he buys Dolphin Cove, will the stock price remain the same or was it backed by the parent company?
So I, I wouldn't say the stock price was backed by the parent company. The parent company owns 79.99%, or the direct parent company owns 79.99% of Dolphin Cove's ordinary shares. Those shares have been pledged as collateral for a note purchase agreement. I believe as a form of a loan. The parent company owns 90% of the intermediate parent company. So, I wouldn't say that the parent company backed the stock price because they've not traded Dolphin Cove since they got their majority stake. And at the same time, the stock price, could potentially, go up even higher depending on who takes over the business if that event does occur.
All right. So let's move on to another tourism company, and this one is Playa Hotels. So they've reported their latest results. Tell us what that means for Jamaica.
Well, Playa results at this point tell us that Jamaica is still not where it needs to be after last year's travel advisory. So Playa reported a 16% dip in revenue from $49 million US to 42 million US. But the EBITDA that went down from 16 million US to 8 million US, basically a halving of the EBITDA. And there are two key factors that contributed towards that reduction in EBITDA. And let me just explain. EBITDA is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. So the reason they spoke to that massive reduction in EBITDA was really coming down to the travel advisory impact alongside them earning less per available room and overall packages. So in the hotel space, or I should say tourism space, you tend to hear companies speak about RevPAR, revenue per available room, net ADR, net average daily rate. So Playa reported that these figures went down by like double digits in the Jamaican context. And in Playa's earnings calls, well, I wanted to say last week, they estimated that they lost about $25 to $30 million worth of US worth of revenue for 2024 just because of that travel advisory. So that's kind of show you how significant this advisory was, to Playa, and they operate 5 resorts here in Jamaica.
Remind our viewers, David, which hotels fall under Playa?
So Hyatt Ziva, Hyatt Zilara, Jewel Paradise Cove, well, they sold that property. Jewel Discovery Bay, and there's a fifth one. It's I don't think it's the Rose Hall, one of the surgical properties, the former Palmyra. Can't remember the name right now. I'll report in a second, but yeah, those are the 5 properties they operated. They just sold the Jewel Paradise Cove property on January 28th for $28.5 million US, and this is before they announced acquisition by Hyatt of Playa that is taking place now.
And Playa is not listed in Jamaica. It's listed on the NASDAQ.
Correct.
So what's the outlook for Jamaica's tourism sector? We're hearing this news from Playa. We're hearing the bad news from Dolphin Cove. Well, some good news coming in the past couple of days still. But what would you say is the outlook for Jamaica's tourism sector? Because not too long ago, we were thinking tourism, and still tourism is a major part of Jamaica's economy. I think it's about 20% of the entire economy. So 1 in every $5 made in Jamaica comes directly from tourism. And if that is to be as severely impacted as we have seen by the travel advisory, then is there a risk here? Should we be worried?
So there should be some level of concern, and the biggest income earner for Jamaica is really remittances, not necessarily tourism. So
they're about similar, both about 20%.
Remittance brings in more direct effects to the country. Remember that with
tourism, a lot of it goes right back out.
Not just that, not always reaches the country. So when you book on, for example, booking.com or some of these websites, that money doesn't necessarily come to Jamaica. They can send that money directly to the hotel's bank account overseas, and it doesn't enter Jamaican shores. So That just gives a little bit of context right there. So apart going out to, for importing food and amenities and so forth, some of it doesn't even enter the country. So when I say remittance is a bigger contributor in terms of direct effects, is because that money directly hits the remittance providers' accounts and they trade it here in Jamaica as well. But in terms of the outlook for tourism, we saw, I believe, the Grand Palladium announced a new hotel development that will last 2 weeks. Bahia Principe, which is now a joint venture under Hyatt, they are expected to announce, a major, their third hotel in Jamaica in short order. And, according to Grupo del Aeropuerto del Pacifico, the Pacific Airport Group that manages Normandy and Sancton International airports, they pointed out that, according to JTB data, Jamaica Tourist Board, that we're supposed to have about 10 to 12,000 new rooms over the next 5 years. So there is optimism in this space for tourism. However, the major factors that are really, or impediments, are really external, because that travel advisory, it was just an advisory. It wasn't Jamaica being in a war. There was no incursion. It was just an advisory, a little document that just caused much damage. And right now, everybody's just in a watch and see mode with the USA in its new administration, because we're seeing, China, USA, Mexico, Canada, all doing these retaliatory tariffs, and it creates a lot of noise in the environment, because on one hand, a person is going to be more interested in doing leisure activities, in this case, traveling to Jamaica, versus bunkering and holding capital to see through this unknown period. So it's an interesting period, because I looked at the January data for our airports, and I believe that Kingston still started with an uptick. I think it was like probably 10% to that effect around that region. But Sancton International saw about
Wow. Let's not
15%
forget the
reduction.
impact of the Vibes Cartel concert for New Year's.
So here's the thing about the Kalila.
10% for Kingston.
So here's the thing about the Kalila. Sangster processes about 70% of the airport, I should say, passengers coming into Jamaica. So while President Kingston might think that Kingston's NMI is all it is, that's not the case. So a 3 or 4% reduction in Sancton International can easily outsurpass a 10-15% increase in passenger traffic here in Kingston. So, Cartel did so some good for the Kingston economy with this concert, but at the same time, there were less persons coming into Montego Bay, which is the main hub for the tourism space. So that is all to point out that, yes, Cartel did have a positive impact. And, someone shared with me today that in New York, there are more than 20,000 persons waiting for a ticket to Cartel's New York concert.
Wow.
So he is an economic impact, and I'm sure that the government would love for him to bring more tourism activity and dollars here. Let us see what Carnival brings around the end of April with Cartel.
I heard him saying that he intends to make it an annual event. So there's that.
It will be good, but otherwise, it's a tough space for tourism. Probably by tomorrow or Thursday, we'll get a better picture from GAP, the airport manager, in terms of how February performed for our tourism space, to actually at least understand, what the actual traffic is looking like, because most visitors still come to Jamaica through the airports. And we shouldn't forget that the Ocho Rios Pier is still undergoing some sort of renovation right now, and shouldn't be back in full operation until July 2025. So, seeing that data can at least give me some context to interpret or understand what's really going on. Because, yes, tourism is something that we can all say, yes, we're going to be better, but reality is that it's not as hot just because of external factors that we cannot control, because we're talking about reduction in murders, we're talking about, relatively stable economy, all these relatively attractive things, but persons have to be considered domestic affairs at home, so it's an interesting period. I hope that, Tiana, the young Japanese lady, Hansa Passion Theory, is enjoying her time in Jamaica, and I hope that she can encourage some person in Japan to jump and a plane and come to Jamaica as well.
Right. Well, thanks for that update, David. Lots to consider there when it comes to our tourism performance. This is high season, so it ought to be, the best of times. Past few years, we've been hearing record numbers. Let's see what 2025 has in store.
Just
Thanks
one
again,
last
David.
thing. I know one last thing again, sadly.
It won't be taking stock if David doesn't say one last thing.
So just to clarify, because a lot of persons have been making this misconception, and I know that some persons might watch taking stock again to honor the TJH offer. So just a reminder, this is not an IPO. The company is already publicly listed. Its largest shareholder is selling its shares directly to the market. There is no dilution. Secondly, for the minimum buying on the Jamaican dollar side, it is 3,600 Jamaican dollars. If you're buying on the US dollar side, it is $2,280 US. So 100,000 units minimum to buy on the US dollar side, 1,000 units on the JMD side. Pointing all these facts out so that persons can be informed. Your selling agents are NCB Capital Markets, JMB Securities Limited, and North Hydrocore Investments. You can go on Go IPO, you can go on JMB Moneyline IPO, or JMB Moneyline if you're a client, or Hydrocore E-Invest to apply for the offer. I'm just giving this context so persons can have a little more clarity in what they're hearing, seeing, and repeating.
All right. Thanks again, David. We'll take our final break and come back with your comments. 12 months. That's all it takes to transform your finances with Money Mission Premium. For the next year, I'll guide you on the process to take your finances to the next level. You'll get my premium courses, monthly mentorship, and a great community of peers to help you on your journey. Go to moneymissionja.com. Let's get this money.
Let's get this money.
Can you imagine Reese is about to be 7 years old? I think she was 1 in that little video. So long we've been doing this. Wow. All right, let's take final comments. So Bianca said C, that's in response to the poll question. So the first offer missed her, the TJH IPO missed her. So yes, she will be buying this time around. It's not going to miss her again. David says, I'll continue to buy. For me, this is a long-term game. All when I die, my son will control it, plus dividend will help grow it. Yep. Neely wants to know what's the difference between general pool and reserved pool. So general pool are the shares that are available to anyone in the public. Anybody can buy. Reserved shares are reserved for certain people. In this case, you have employees of TJH and NROC who are able to access reserved shares. They put some aside special for them. I think the broker also has some option to buy in the reserve pool. There are probably some other categories as well that I'm not remembering right now. But reserved is exactly what it sounds like. These shares are reserved for certain people. Certain people have first choice to buy those shares. And then typically, if the reserve pool is not fully subscribed, then it moves on over to the general pool. And more people get the opportunity to buy those shares. Sean says, still a moderately risky stock then. He was referring to Dolphin Cove at the time. Learn, Grow, Invest said if he should buy, it would be amazing, referring to the founder of Dolphin Cove, saying that he has the money to buy it back in the event that the current owners who have filed for bankruptcy are interested in selling. So I think that would be a great move as well. Learn, Grow, Invest said, love the potential upside. Demar, commenting on tourism, says the hotel prices in Jamaica are too high, which causes many people to travel to other destinations. I think we are pretty competitive. We have hotel prices at all rates. You have on the lower end, you have on the ultra high premium end. I would say Jamaica is a competitive destination. Kirk says the handle is not in our hands when it comes to tourism. We are left with the blade. I think there is some truth to that, Kurt, given what has happened, the fallout just from one statement, one travel advisory. The handle is not in our hands. We are left with the blade. Philip commenting on the Vibes Cartel concert, and Cartel saying that he's going to make it an annual event. He says this year's Freedom Street likely to be over 2 days, he said. One main event. So Philip is eyeing the stock market opportunity there, with main event being the producer of that show. Lanesra, however, saying next 2 years interest in his concert will die like every major concert in Jamaica. Philip says, I doubt that. What do you guys think? Do you think that this is a sustainable thing that can carry for years to come? I know for people of a certain age, us millennials, I feel like I would go to the same show every single year. We saw Intimate, the crowds that were there for Buja and Barris's show. Although it's not every year, it looks like they're doing it every other year. So they had a huge crowd the first time. Second time they did it again, huge crowd. Would a third staging be as successful? That remains to be seen. I feel like it would. So for Cartel now, for those of us who grew up in that era or came of age in that era and want to relive that era of our lives, like I feel like I would go to the show every year just to sing those songs and dance those dances all again and relive my youth. What do you guys think? Kirk says, seeing the government spending more on agriculture is good. That's something we can control, more exports and limit imports. And then Learn, Grow, Invest says, sometimes it's cheaper to travel outside Jamaica than in Jamaica. That's true too. You can get deals. Like nearby Dominican Republic, also very competitive. Let me see if we have any more comments before I wrap this up. Let's go back to the live. Tavares says, high risk can be high reward. True. Also can be the opposite as well. Shell says, Cartel can invite Sir P. Carter. And have, okay, I don't understand what you're saying. And I have the strength. Philip says people go to Sumfest every year, but it's not necessarily the same artist headlining Sumfest every year, Philip. They switch up the lineup. Sometimes they do have repeat artists, but they switch it up. So I think it can work. People do go to the same show every year. Let's see how that works out. But you guys let me know what you think in the chat. That is our show for this evening. Thanks for joining us yet another week. It has been my pleasure serving you here on Taking Stock. Don't forget to like the video. Where's Raquel? Raquel is my, I should give you an official title, Raquel. My like police. Raquel is a like police, always reminding people to like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Also subscribe to the newsletter at getmoneynews.com. That's getmoneynews.com for IPO alerts, investment alerts, breaking money news straight to your inbox. I have invoices on my mind. And follow us all over social media at Kalila Ray and on Instagram at Money Media JA. I'm going to be posting a lot more on the official Money Media JA page and a lot less on my personal page, especially stuff from Taking Stock, the IPO alerts and so on. They are going to be going to Money Media JA's page. So follow that page. This is a transition period for the next year or so. Eventually, you will want to be on Money Media JA's page. Anything else that I need to mention? Let me see. Thanks to our guests this evening, Ivan Anderson from TransJamaican Highway, also to Angus Young from NCB Capital Markets, and of course our Taking Stock analyst, David Rose. And thanks to you for tuning in yet another week. Thanks to our hardworking production team, Sachelle, Izzy, Alexa, big up to the crew, and I will see you again next week. Until then, have a great evening.